Hi everyone, and welcome to this workshop series on branding. My name is Chris Converse, and today we'll be adding some interactivity to our design work in order to demonstrate a vision for our brand's online store. We'll be using repeat grids and component states inside of Adobe XD in order to complete the layout. Then we'll use some prototyping tools to create interactions both within a single component and between artboards. Then we'll share our interactive prototype and let our colleagues and clients interact with it and give us feedback. And finally, we'll take a look at voice prototyping inside of Adobe XD. We'll be adding voice commands and speech playback events to artboards inside of a fitness app, allowing us to interact with our designs in a whole new way. So you can sit back and watch me demonstrate all of these techniques, or download the project files and follow along with me. If you want to follow along with me in this workshop, you'll need to log into your Creative Cloud account, which will also enable Adobe fonts and other services, including prototype sharing and collaboration tools. We'll also be working primarily inside of Adobe XD, so make sure you have a recent version installed, and there are also project files that include XD layouts and some additional files that we'll be incorporating into those layouts. And finally, at the end of the workshop, we'll do a quick introduction to audio prototyping. So if your computer includes a speaker and microphone, you'll be able to try out some of these features as well. So when you're ready, join me in the next video and we'll get started. Now, to begin working on this project, we're going to bring in some branding that we created earlier in the workshop with Adobe Illustrator. So to begin, let's come over here to the project files. Inside of the project files, there's two XD layouts. Let's start with the Altera Athletics online store. And once you open this, you're going to see two main artboards. There's a product detail artboard, which has all of the layout and product details for the page that we're on in the online store. And on the right-hand side is a smaller artboard called Shopping Bag. We're actually going to use this as an overlay later on in the workshop series. So the first thing we want to do is bring in our branding to put it up here inside of the banner area. So we're going to start by going to the File menu inside of XD and choose Import, or in Windows you can hit Control-Shift-I. Then we're going to find our project files, go into the online store assets and find the Illustrator file, the 3-color version of the logo, and then click Import. So now what's going to happen inside of XD is the entire screen's going to sort of change here. And what happened is XD brought in the entire Illustrator file as its own artboard. So if I come in here and select all of the artwork here, we can see this is all selected, but you'll also see that we're inside of artboard 1. If I hit Command or Control 0, that will bring me out to fit all artboards, and we can see that this has just been added down here. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to select all of this artwork. Over here in the Layers panel, I'm going to hit Command or Control G to create a group. I'll name this Altera logo, press return, and then once the group's created, I'll right click on that and choose Make Component. Now if I come over here to the document assets, we can see that this component has now been created here. And since we created the layer group, the component name picked up the group name. So let's come back here to the Layers panel. Let's select the logo. I'm going to hit Command or Control X to cut that to the clipboard. I'll delete the artboard. Then I'll come up here and select one of the items on the product detail artboard. I'll go into the branding folder. I'll select the bar, which is the gray bar here. Command or Control V. I'm going to paste in the logo. I'm going to zoom up here a little bit so we can see what we're doing. Now I'm going to move this over into place. And if I come down here and hold the Shift key and scale this, you'll notice that all of the individual elements of the artwork are scaling independent of each other. They're scaling in relationship to the bounding box of the component. Now, for this particular case, I don't want this to be responsive. I want to treat this as a piece of artwork. So I'm going to hit Undo to any transformations, come over here to the Inspector panel, and next to Responsive Design, I'm going to disable this. Then I can come back here, I can scale this down, and XD will treat this component like a piece of artwork. And so as we'll see in this workshop, components can have a couple of different behaviors set up. And then I'll just zoom up here and position the logo. So at this point, we've imported our Illustrator file, which became native XD artwork, created a component, and branded our online store. Next, we'll take a look at creating a repeat grid so we can bring in all of our product imagery for this area here. Now it's time to put some of our product photography into our layout, and we're going to do this using some repeat grids. So on the main product detail page, let's zoom up here to the bottom center where I have the You May Also Like section. So let's come in here and double click until we get to the selection here of the image inside of the related products group. So over here in the layers group, I'll come in here, select product name, hold shift, select the image. With both of these selected, let's come over here and enable the repeat grid. So a repeat grid is a special kind of group where if I open this up in the layers panel, I can see my same two elements. However, with the repeat grid selected, I can come over here and extend this, and every item inside of that group will be repeated. So let's bring this out until we can see 2 additional copies. I'm also going to come in here and rename this to more products. So now let's go back to the project files. I'm going to close up my XD window here a little bit so I can see my desktop. Back in the project files, let's open up the online assets. Inside of the online assets, let's open up the related products. And what I did here is named my products in a way that they would order in the order I want them to appear. So I put a 1, 2, 3 here. So the order that they show up in the operating system, when you select these, drag and drop them on top of any of the items in the repeat grid, they're going to be positioned in that same order. So we get the canvas bag, we get the ball cap, and we get the water bottles. Now I also have a text file here. Now this is just a plain simple text file. And if I preview this, you can see that each name is on its own line. So it's just a simple TXT file. I can take this file and drop this on top of any of the labels. And just like with the images, the first line will go to the first item, the second to the second, and a third to the third. So now we have really quickly populated that repeat grid. So let me zoom back out here, and then let's zoom into the product detail area. In here, let's double click until we select the thumbnail inside of the product photos group. With the thumbnail selected, let's come over here to the repeat grid again. Let's enable a repeat grid. We'll rename this to thumbnails. Then we'll come in here and let's extend this out to the right until we can see 2. And then let's extend this down until we can see 3 additional rows. So we'll have 2 columns, 3 rows, giving us a total of 6 images. Back to our project files, let's open up the product images. And in here I have 6 images. Let's select all of these, drag these and drop them on top of any one of them. Again, they'll order in the correct order. So now we can see all of the thumbnails. Then I'm going to make sure I have nothing selected. Let's go back to the project files. Let's grab the hero image and let's drag and drop this right on top of the main product image. So we can see that showing up here. So this image here relates to the very first thumbnail. And you can see I have a selection box here as well. We're going to make this interactive very soon. I'm also going to pan over to the right to our shopping bag, and I'm going to grab the hero image and drop this into the shopping bag as well. Because once we've added this to our cart, we want the shopping cart to move over and show us that this has been added. And so now with all of our product imagery placed, next we're going to create a component and create component states for the product detail gallery. So now we're ready to start working with component states, which is basically a way that you can create multiple sort of views or states of an individual component. So to begin, let's come in here and zoom up on the product detail area. In the last video, we placed all of our product images in here. So now what we want to do is create a component out of this entire object here. So let's come in here and select this until we're inside of the product photos group. So inside of here, we have our product, the selection, which is the selection box around the outside. And then we have all of our thumbnails, which are created using a repeat grid. So let's come in here and select the entire product photos group, right click and choose make component. So now the entire group is now a component. Inside of the component, we have all of the same elements that we were just looking at. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select the product photos, and over in the inspector panel, we can see the default state here. Now we can add additional states to our component. So let's come over here and click on the plus sign. Let's come in here and add a new state. We're going to call this photo 2, press return. And now with this selected, we are now working in a second view or state of this component. So what I'm going to do is open this up. Let's come in here to the selection. I'm going to hold the shift key and use my arrows, and I'm going to move over the selection box until it's over the second thumbnail. I'm also going to come over to the project files. Inside of the product images, I'm going to grab the O2 image and drag this into the main area here. So now the image being detailed matches the thumbnail that has the selection box around it. Now let's go back and select product photos. Let's come in here, add another state. We're going to call this photo 3, press return. We're now working in the third state. Let's grab image 3, drop it in the center. Let's come over here to the selection. And again, I like to use my arrow keys and hold the shift key, and I'll just arrow this down until the selection box is around the third thumbnail. Now, what's interesting about component states is if I come back and select the main component, I can come in here and change the component state. So I can select to or select default, and I can go back and forth between the different views. This becomes incredibly powerful, not only for creating components that can look different across different artboards, but we can also add interactivity to this, which is what we're going to be doing. So on your own, come in here, click on the plus sign, add a new state, and add a new state for photo 4, photo 5, and photo 6. And so now you can pause the video and create the remaining component states, making sure that you have photo 2 through photo 6. The default state is going to be photo 1 or the main hero image. And so while you're doing that, I'll just speed up the video here so that we can jump to the end where I have all of my component states created. If I come over here and select product photos, come back over here to the inspector panel, you should be able to go through photo 6, then 5, then 4, 3, 2, and then the default state. And once you have all of these component states created, you'll be ready to make this interactive in the next video. So now that we have all of our photos placed, now we're going to create an interactive gallery. What we're going to do is we're going to set this up so that when we click on these different thumbnails, we're going to see the main image show up here over on the right. So this is our main hero image. And incidentally, this is the model that we created in the last workshop in Substance Stager. So we added the logo and the patterns here. And I also created all of these different views inside of Stager as well and just rendered those out. So we're going to use these as the different views of our product. So with all of our component states created, let's come back and select the product photos main component. Let's come up here and switch to the prototype workspace. And what I want to do, making sure that we're on the default state, let's double click and we're going to come down and select the thumbnails. So notice in the repeat grid, the thumbnail layer is selected even though it's repeated 6 times. So double click so that we can see this selected here. Click on this arrow 1 time and don't drag this to anything. By simply clicking on this, we've added an event. So the event is a trigger of a type of tap. And let's come in here and set the type of transition. I want to use auto animate, but you can choose dissolve or pick anything else. So auto animate, I like this because that's going to make the little selection box move around. For the destination, you can choose an artboard or a state, and you'll only see the state option if the interactive element, which is this thumbnail, is inside of a component. So the state is going to be photo 2. So if I click on the second thumbnail, it's going to take us to the photo 2 state. I'm going to choose the ease out option for auto animate, and I'm going to make this take 0.4 seconds. Now XD is going to remember all of those settings. So now I can go back, click on the third thumbnail, click on the arrow. Everything is going to be remembered. Let's come in here and set that to photo 3. Come over and select 4, click on the arrow. Let's select photo 4 for the destination. Come back, choose 5. Choose 5 as the destination. And then finally, let's grab 6. Click on the arrow. Destination, set that to photo 6. So now with this in place, we can test this for one of our component states. So let's come up here to the desktop preview, which is the little play button. Let's click on play. And now we can interact with our prototype. So if I come down here and hover over the thumbnails, you'll see you get a little pointer tool. And if I click on number 2, we'll see that the image will change to number 2 and we'll get that little animation of the selected box. Now this component is in its photo 2 state where we have not added any interactivity. So I can't come in here and interact any further. So let's close this. Let's go back to our layout. Let's select the product photos component. Let's put this into its photo 2 state. Let's come back to the thumbnails, click on the first thumbnail, and we can come in here and add our interactive states. So now you will have to go back and forth in each one of the different component states to create these links. So I'm going to speed up the video while I do this here. You can pause this and go in and select each component state and then link the corresponding thumbnail to the corresponding destination. Keep in mind that you don't have to link the thumbnail of the selected state. So for example, in photo 2, don't link this to the photo 2 state because we're already on that state creating these links. And so once you're done, you'll be able to go back to the product photos main component, select the default state. You should be able to see that all of these are linked. Go to the next state, photo 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and just make sure all of these are linked. So once all of those are in place, let's go back to the desktop preview, click on the play button, and then you can come down here and interact with your gallery. So As I click each item, you want to go through and make sure if you're on 5, you can go to all of the different ones, or you can just click around here and get a real sense of what this experience is going to feel like when somebody's interacting with the product gallery in the online store. And now one thing you want to make sure of is that you start your component on the hero state or the default state. So let's go back to the layout. Let's go into the design view. Let's select our component and select the default state. So now if I zoom out, they're going to see the hero image, the first hero thumbnail selected, and then they can interact from there. And so now with the gallery complete, next we'll bring in the shopping cart artboard as an overlay when somebody clicks the Add to Cart button. So now we'll use another artboard to reveal additional content on the main artboard when somebody's interacting with our prototype. And a typical use case for an online store would be a shopping bag or the shopping cart. So let's come in here to our layout. Let's come down and select the shopping cart component. We can see that over here in the layers panel under product details. So this is a component that I created already called button. Now what we're going to do is with this selected, let's come up and switch to our prototype view. And then I'm going to click and drag and link this over to the shopping bag artboard. Once you do that, this will create a link. Let's click on this. This is called a tap. That's the interaction type. You can come in here and change these. So when somebody taps on Add to Cart, we're going to come in here and change the type from whatever might be currently selected, mine's auto animate, to overlay. So what overlay does is it takes the artboard that we're linking to and superimposes it on top of the current artboard where the link has been triggered. So here I can see this little green arrow here showing me where that artboard would be positioned. If I click on this and move it, I can actually move this around. So I can have this show up anywhere. But what I want to do is have this slide in from the right. So with this link selected, let's come over here to the animation type and let's choose slide left. XD will automatically position this to the rightmost side of the screen so the drawer can sort of slide out. Now, if you take a look at how I've set up this artboard, we come back to design view. What I did is I came in here and I drew a rectangle. I have a white rule showing up in here as well. And you can see all of this in the background layer group in the shopping bag artboard. So here's the divider in the background. And the background color, which is simply a box, has a drop shadow set to a negative X and 0 Y position. So it just sort of creates a shadow that goes over toward the left here. So let's go back to prototype view. Let's select our Add to Cart. So again, to review this, we have the type set to overlay, the destination is shopping bag, slide left, and let's make this take about 0.95 seconds. So since this is a large area, it's the entire vertical area, I want this to come in a little bit slower. We don't want this to be too jarring. And so with this in place, let's come up here and test this in our desktop preview. I'll move this over a little bit. Let's come in here and click Add to Cart, and then we'll see the shopping cart slides into place. Now you can adjust the speed. That feels a little bit slow, so maybe I'll bring this down to about 0.8 or so. But again, you can come in here and change these settings, preview this, and see what you think feels good for the overall experience. Now, the other nice thing about overlays is I can click anywhere and this will go away. So I did put a little X in here, so if you clicked on that, it'll go away. But if I come in here and click this to bring it back, I can click anywhere and that will disable the overlay. So again, this gives the user a real sense of what it's going to be like to interact with a product and all of its photos, and then add that to their shopping cart. And so now that I like the way this looks and feels, I'm going to share this with people so that they can interact with it and leave me some comments so that we can get to a final user experience for this project. So now with our prototype working, we're ready to share this with our colleagues and clients and get some feedback. So inside of XD, let's switch over to the share workspace. And here, what we're going to do is come over here to the right and first decide what view settings we want to enable. Now there's a couple of different options here, which are really cool. So I can come in here, for example, and enable the development option, which will create another panel in the shared area where developers can come in and see specific color settings and font settings and anything they need to develop this. There's a presentation view, which will just sort of let people interact with this without having any other interface elements around or review items. But I want to come up here and choose design review. And so what this means is people who are looking at this can not only interact with this using any browser, but they can also put in some comments and we can have a full collaboration about this prototype. I can also choose who can actually access this link. Anyone with the link means as soon as I click create link, I can share this with anyone and they can see it. We can also limit this to only people that we invite. And finally, we can add a password to this. So I'm going to create a link that just allows anyone with the link to see it. Click on Create Link. And so what's going to happen is XD is going to take this document, turn it into a cloud document, which goes up as part of my Creative Cloud files. And then I'll get this link that shows up here. If I come in here and just simply click on this link, I can copy this. Then I can switch over to a web browser and simply hit Command or Control V to paste in that URL. And now I can interact with this prototype right inside of a browser. I can come over here and interact with the gallery. I can come over here and click Add to Cart. My shopping bag is going to come up. I can click anywhere and that's going to go away. And then with my commenting tools, I can come over here, click on the pin, and then add a comment that says, I love the detail image here. Then click Submit and have my comment be part of the overall collaboration. And so now with our interactive prototype complete and all of our collaboration underway, in the next workshop, I'll give you a quick introduction to how we can work with voice inside of XD so that XD can respond to things that we say instead of clicking a mouse or a trackpad. Combining your voice with interactive design will give you a whole new opportunity to design experiences. So if you're going to be following along, let's open up the Altura Athletics fitness app in the project files. Now in the last workshop, I took an XD interface and applied this to a luxury watch model in Substance Stager. So here I've expanded that design out a little bit so that we can add in some voice prompts and see what it would be like to talk to our watch and run an application. So we're going to start here on the home screen and have this screen listen for when we say that we want to start running. Once we do that, we're going to go to this screen here, which is just going to animate to this screen. And then on this screen, we're going to have the application ask us if we'd like to start our run. Depending on our answer, if we say yes, we're going to go to this screen here, which shows the current activity. Or if we say no, we'll go back to the home screen. So to start this off, let's go over to the prototype workspace. Let's select the entire home artboard. Let's come over here and click on this little arrow and let's drag this over to the Altura app launch screen. Now on this screen, let's come over here to the interaction panel. Let's change this to voice. And in here, we can type in a voice command we'd like to listen for. So I'm going to type in start running. We want to transition to this using auto animate. We're going to go to the Altura app launch, which is what we dragged this to. We're going to set the easing to ease in and out, and we're going to set the duration to 1 second. Then press return. So now XD is going to listen to hear whether we say these words or not. When we're on the launch screen, let's select this. Let's link this to the app running. And this is basically just an intermediate screen for the animation. So we want to have this run immediately. So let's change this to a time-based event. We're going to set 0 seconds for the delay, auto animate, ease in and out in 1 second. So now to test this, let's come up here and click on the play button to play this in desktop preview. And then I can hit the space bar and say our commands. Now, if this is the first time you're running this, you may have to grant XD access to the microphone. So I'm going to hit the space bar and say start running. Start running. XD is going to hear that. It's going to animate to the launch screen, which will then automatically animate to the prompt screen. So now when we get to this screen, we want to add some kind of feedback from the application. So let's close out of our preview. Let's go back to the app running. We'll select this entire artboard. And let's come in here and add a timed event. So let's simply click on this arrow without going anywhere. In the interaction panel, let's set this to time. Next, let's come down to the type. We'll set this to speech playback. You can choose whatever voice you'd like, and I'm going to have the application ask me if I'd like to begin a run. With the artboard selected and the interaction selected, let's come in here and come over to the interaction plus sign over here in the panel and click on add interaction. The next interaction type is going to be voice. So we'll put in a voice command here. I'll type in yes. And if I say yes, then we're going to auto animate to the app running, ease in and out, and we'll set this to 1 second. And once you've added the second interaction, you'll see another blue connector line with a voice showing that this will actually go to this artboard based on a voice command. Then let's come back. Let's add another interaction. So we're adding our third interaction here. This is also going to be voice. We're going to type in no, hit tab. We're going to auto animate to the home screen, ease in and out, 1 second. And once we complete this, we'll see another connector line showing up from this artboard back to home. So if we get to this point and say no, we're going to go back home. If we get to this point and say yes, we're going to go down here. And so with all of that in place, save your file, come up and preview this. We're sitting on the home screen. It's waiting for a voice prompt. So we'll hold the spacebar and say, I'd like to start a run.
Would you like to start your run?
And now at this point, if I say yes, it'll continue on. So I'll do that. I'll hit the spacebar and say yes. That brings us back to this screen. I'm going to hit Command or Control Return to restart the preview. We'll do this one more time. I'd like to start a run.
Would you like to start your run?
And at this point, I'll say no. No. And that'll bring me back to the home screen. So in just a few minutes, we're able to add some voice commands into our artboards and create an entirely new experience that not only has visual feedback, but audible feedback as well. So this brings us to the end of the workshop. We've completed two different prototypes, one with an interactive gallery and a shopping cart overlay, and the other one that is driven by our voice. So I hope you'll join me in the next workshop where we'll get our brand moving with After Effects.